Now what I'd like to do is apply chords as chords rather than as arpeggios. I'm using the chords that are listed in the video booklet, and I have the list of changes that I use for this particular song that I've named Solar Groove. It's in a 4/4 time feel, and in the middle of the song I'm using the concept of playing odd meters within a 4/4 time signature by taking 4 measures, actually 3 measures of 4 time, which is 12 beats, and breaking that into 4 measures of 3/4. Also at the end of the piece I'm using bass harmonics to form chords at the end. So here we go. I'd like to talk a little bit about scales now. Scales are a great way to develop dexterity and strength in your hands through just playing any type of scale in all 12 keys. I'd like to show you my approach to scales. My approach to scales has been to connect 2, 3, or 4 octave scales by thinking them as a bunch of modes connected to each other to form these scales. It's a little hard to explain, so let me show you what I mean. If I were to play a 4-octave C major scale, I would do that by combining the first 6 notes of Ionian. Then, rather than going to Dorian, I go backwards to Locrian, play the first 6 notes of Locrian, then play the first 6 notes of Aeolian, and then play the first 6 notes of Mixolydian. So I'm thinking of the diatonic modes, but I'm going in a descending order when I'm thinking about ascending in a 4-octave major scale. Okay, so let me show you exactly what I mean when I play a 4-octave C major scale. I start with the low C, and I think of the first 6 notes of the Ionian mode. Then I think of the first 6 notes of Locrian. Then the first 6 notes of Aeolian. Then the first 6 notes of Mixolydian. And extend to give me the 4th octave of C. And think the same way going back down. Mixolydian to Aeolian to Locrian, back down to Ionian. Now, moving to the 2nd degree, the C major scale, I'll play a 3-octave scale, starting with the Dorian mode. And this is the way I would think it out. I would start with the first 6 notes of Dorian, then the first 6 notes of Ionian, then the first 6 notes of Locrian, and extend to get the octave, and then think the same way back down. Now moving to the natural 3rd of the scale, I would start with the Phrygian mode and play a 3-octave scale, starting with the first 6 notes of Phrygian, then the first 6 notes of Dorian, then the first 6 notes of Ionian, and extend, I believe it's an extra 4 notes on top of the 6 to get the octave that you started on. And then think the same way back down. And now starting on